everyone. My name is Prisha Soraya, and I am the Director of Content Creation for Mission MathMinds. And today I am here with Palak Shah. Palak, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Palak. I am a third year student at Northwestern University. I'm studying computational and systems bio as well as data science, and also on the pre-med track. It's great to be here today.
Yeah, so would you like to tell us more about how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Specifically like how I found what I wanted to study in college was more so with getting involved with research in my very last year of high school. It's not at all like common or necessary to be involved with research in high school. But I was just looking to get any sort of experience I could. And because of all the regulations, computational research seemed to be like where I was able to get in. And that's when I discovered this whole new branch of science, which is computational biology. And so I think it's really cool because you get to mix together a lot of different subjects. And it's not just like pure coding, like software engineering or anything like that, but it's like sort of mixing together like the life sciences and what you know about systems, and then being able to see that in real time by creating it on a computer interface.
Before you got into computational biology, what did you want to go into?
Before I wasn't exactly sure like subject wise. Like I always knew I wanted to go into medicine. I always really liked science and I loved like that compassion, empathetic side of like interacting with patients. But I was kind of just trying to weigh out what subjects I liked in high school. And so I knew like once I took biology, like AP Bio, I knew that I really liked that. And the only other subject that I ever really liked a lot was statistics, which I took in junior year. And that's when I started thinking along the side of like computational or like bioinformatics, which is related. It's just more on like the data science side of biology and statistics. And so I just started looking into like what can I do with both of those subjects, because I knew I didn't want to just do biology, even though that was what was most exciting to me. I thought, I want to mix it together with something, make it interesting. And so I was kind of looking for what other subjects in high school really stood out to me that I really enjoyed.
Going back to high school again, um, when you were like pursuing your passions in high school, did you encounter any like stereotypes of like boys versus girls in STEM, or was it just did you just feel like you could do anything?
This has actually been something I've talked about a lot recently with like people I've met in college, at other universities as well. In high school, that difference didn't stand out too much. Honestly, in high school, most of us females saw that the girls were the ones in like leadership roles in clubs. They're really the ones like kind of driving things forward. And because you're all taking the same classes, it's more so just like, like actually how capable are you? And usually we saw a lot of the girls coming forward in that way. Um, Once you step outside of that a little bit, we didn't, because of that we didn't realize just how bad it really was, that like gender divide. But once you get to an institutional standpoint, we saw that it's definitely very, very prevalent.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I still like even now I like barely notice the difference. But like I always hear like everyone being like, "Oh yeah, females in STEM." And I'm like, "Why don't we already like have enough representation?" But I guess I just really haven't been out in that world yet.
It's very much, yeah, it's very much emphasized like and like publicized now, like on lower levels. So like it's not as easy to see, but like you do see it in like little ways once you actually get out into the real world and you see those biases showing up.
Okay, so going back to now college, what do you have like any specific research that you do in computational biology, or basically just like talk about your major and what you do right now?
Yeah. So right now I am doing research in computational biology. And that came about from like the first upper level computational biology class I took, which was in my sophomore year, in the winter. It was called Modeling Biological Dynamics. And it was so cool because basically Those of you who are like really interested in bio, you know that like there's all of these systems, they're all like very cyclical, and it's like mapped out so precisely. Like we know like stepwise how these things are happening. And so what we can do is then take that understanding and put that into like model code equations, implement that in like in code on the computer, and we can see those like systems come to life. And so basically we do this by creating plots. They're like time series plots, so you can see how the system is changing over time. And because we have written these equations, we can just change like little things in our code to make a change in the system itself. And then we can see like in real time, what is the potential impact of this change on that system? And so that is really cool because you can do it in so many different ways. Like if you're looking at like ecological stuff, you can look at like, you know, populations and species of animals over time. But, you know, on the medical side, you can have like tumor models of like how these cells are growing over time and introduce like a new parameter in your equation, which is like radiation, and see, you know, how much does this dosage of radiation impact the growth of those cancer cells. And so there's a lot of different branches that you can go out into in that way too. But that's what got me most excited, because it's just like it's so cool to see that. A lot of computational biology today is really focused on the genetics side. So when people are really interested in genetics, that's sort of just taken over by computational biology now, with all of like sequencing of DNA. And so anytime like people take samples or biopsies, and they want to see what mutation is present, and they want to see what gene is involved in this disease, all of that is computational biology as well, where you're looking to see, you know, what is changed, and you're analyzing it through code online.
Okay, so what are you planning? Do you have any plans for like the future in your major, or maybe what you're gonna do after college or after Northwestern?
Yeah, so I know that because this major is really hard and like really cool, I definitely don't want to just kind of throw it away as I go to medical school. And so I'm thinking, at least right now, I'm thinking definitely in my career, I want to do research on the side as well as practice. But just in the immediate future, I am graduating early, so I'm graduating 1 year early this spring. And because of my computational background, I am going to do work sort of at the interface of both computational biology and the clinical work. So I was just looking for things to do in my gap years before applying to medical school. And there's a lot of like clinical research positions that people usually take on, just to sort of build that background for their application. But if I did just that, I knew that I wouldn't be applying like all of this computational biology stuff I had to learn like very imminently. But I recently just got an offer at Boston Children's that they're really excited about creating sort of a new role for me, where it'll be a hybrid mix of doing the computational biology work as well as the patient interface side, where I am talking to them, recruiting them for clinical studies, going into endoscopies and asking the physicians for like the samples and biopsies I need. And then I'll kind of get to see it from start to finish. Like I take those biopsies and then do the RNA sequencing for them, and then analyze that RNA-seq to see, you know, what's going on here and what can be changed. And so most likely I will probably take that offer. And if I do that, that'll be like my next 2 years before I apply to med school.
That seems fun. Okay, so I'm sure like a lot of us here watching are high school students, and I'm also sure that they're wondering, how did you get into Northwestern? So, if you just want to share a little bit about like maybe advice that you would give to young high school students applying to college, and maybe a little bit about why you think you got into Northwestern.
Yeah. I would say the biggest piece of advice I always have for high schoolers is that, you know, when you're in that bubble and like everyone's trying to get to that end goal of college, it's really easy to like lose sight of kind of what what you want to do and what you value, like day to day. And I think that's something that it kind of sucked that I did that when I was applying, because I was like looking around and I was seeing like everybody with like all of the little sections on their Common App filled up with extracurriculars. And I was like, oh man, I didn't do that much. But what I did do was I did the things I really wanted to do, and I put my all into them. And so all 4 years of high school, I played basketball. That was a lot of time out of my schedule. But I really, really was into it, and like was captain in my 4th year. NHS was something I was really passionate about, and so over time I sort of built leadership in there, and I ran events through there, and that was another part that was like, at least in the school side, those were the two things that I was super involved with. And so I would say definitely like, just don't do things because you think you need to do them. Do things because you want to do them. And I'm sure you might have heard that plenty of times, but I mean, like, in reality, like if you're just thinking about it day to day, like if you're doing things because you want to do them, you're going to do more for them because you want to. And then the likelihood that you're going to achieve more within that sphere is higher. If you're doing things because you don't want to do them, then I don't know how much you're really going to get out of it. And so I think that was the biggest reason that I got into Northwestern, was like, of course there's like, yeah, you maintain your GPA and your SAT scores and all of that, but it's like, if there's like a million other people doing that, I think the difference is really showing that like, this is the place I want to be, and this is, what I'm going to bring to your school, and this is how you are going to help me become like the person I want to be. And so it's like a mutual relationship. It's like you are applying to them as much as they're kind of applying for you. And so definitely like doing your research on the school and keeping that in mind.
Okay, yeah, that was really helpful. Yeah, I know people hear that like all the time, and still I'm like, is that like are my passions maybe like worth exploring or whatever? But I guess it doesn't really matter, as long as like, even if it's art and I want to go into like computer science, it doesn't matter, right?
Oh yeah, they definitely like will ask you about whatever hobbies it is that you have, and as long as you have a story to tell.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you. It was fun getting to know your life story. Um, thank you so much for being here.
Of course.